Hello and welcome to the Tonic Weight Loss Podcast. My name is Harry Hedges, the personal trainer at Tonic, and I suppose a chief podcaster these days. That's what I'm claiming to be anyway. And I am on season 3, episode 4. And as I promised at the beginning of this season, I wanted lots and lots of patients because we know the value in hearing other patients' journeys. And I am blessed to have Emily Spencer on here. How are we doing, Emily? You okay?
All good, thank you. How are you?
I'm very well. I'm very well, and thank you so much for coming on and spending some time on here this evening. Yeah, we just spoke about the ball. Obviously, you were there on Saturday. Did you have a nice time?
I had a really, really nice time, thanks.
And
It were really, really busy. The music were really, really good. The DJ were great. Food were
awesome.
good. Mm.
Yeah, no, good. And you actually, well, before we go down your road out a little bit, what I'm quite keen to find out. But you said something quite interesting there. Yeah, the first thing you tend to ask about a party is, how were you the next day? Were you hungover? And you mentioned that your drinking sort of changed around. I'm actually quite intrigued to find out a bit more about that, if you don't mind sharing.
Well, it's not brilliant, really.
Okay, no, fair enough.
So, I don't really go out drinking anyway. I have been out drinking a few times since my operation, but I'm not a big drinker anymore. But the times that I have been out drinking, I cannot physically get drunk. And I don't know whether it's because I'm drinking different drinks now as opposed to what I was drinking before. I was a Prosecco girl before, and obviously that's really, really fizzy, and I don't want it to upset my tummy.
Got you.
But I drink things like Malibu and Diet Coke, stir out the fizz, and I just can't get drunk.
It's probably a
I
good
get
thing.
fresh.
I think it's doing you a favour, isn't it?
Well, yeah. I don't go out drinking every weekend anyway, but yeah, it's a bit of a waste of money now, isn't it?
No, fair enough. Yeah. Well, I think all the energy you got the next day and what have you. But no, I just
Well,
wanted to know. I just thought that was really interesting beforehand. But no, obviously, more importantly, way more important than that, I want to find out all about you and your story and where you've come from. What would be quite cool to find out is, if we go back down memory lane, it doesn't have to be necessarily specifically linked to sort of diet culture and nutrition and stuff, but teenage years and kind of what your story was with regards to your health, your social life, how you navigated that, and kind of what brought you down this road, I guess.
yeah. So younger years, I always remember from school, I was the bigger kid as opposed to all my other friends. All my other friends were a lot smaller than me. I was always built a bit different. There were a little bit of bullying around being overweight. Looking back, I wasn't overweight.
No, no, that's interesting, that, isn't it?
Yeah, sometimes I just think kids are just awful, but yeah, I was different to other children. Um, Sort of adolescence, going to uni. Again, I just sort of grew from then, really. From both sides of my family, we are an overweight family. It is genetic.
Okay.
Um, I was diagnosed with polycystic ovaries when I was 15.
Wow.
And obviously, I don't think that helps the situation anyway. But sort of from, I'd say, 16 onwards, I ballooned, put on quite a lot of weight, went to university, went out, drank my way through my 3 years, as you do.
Hmm.
And yeah, I just put on weight since then. In terms of um, potentially why, I lost my dad when I just turned 21,
Oh, man.
and he was 47 at the time. And I ballooned from there. And then when I was 28, I lost my mum.
Bloody
And
hell.
again, I just spiraled from there. So I did put on a large amount of weight
Yeah.
during that 10-year period. I recognise that. Some people go to alcohol, I turn to food. Um, and then I had my little boy. And I remember I went into my booking-in appointment, and my BMI was about 45 at the time.
Okay.
And so, yeah, I was quite big when I fell pregnant. And I remember her turning around to me and saying, "Oh, you don't look as big as what your BMI tells you." And I was like, "Oh, Thanks for that.
That's a really like, yeah, that's a nice way of putting it, isn't
Yeah,
it? Yeah, yeah.
yeah, and obviously when you're bigger and you're pregnant, you go through consultant-led care, etc. But everything was fine with that. So I sort of bloomed all the way up, and I've wanted to do something about my weight for a long time. I've tried all the fad diets. I've tried Slimming World, Weight Watchers, calorie counting. I've bought slimming tablets off of eBay. You know, every single thing I've tried, I've lost and I've gained. I was a serial snacker. I just used to snack, and I don't think my job helped. I'm a mental health nurse, and obviously we work really, really long hours. When it's busy, you don't eat. There's always snacks around and readily available. You come home and you sort of gorge on a night. So I don't think that helped either. But it got to, I remember going to the doctors February 2023, and it was the first time I've sort of recognised, I need some help now.
Okay.
I was knocking on 23 stone at that point. And I said, I need some help now. Could you potentially put me on the weight loss injections? I've tried metformin before, it hasn't worked. The plans aren't working, so can you help me? And they just turned around and said, no, we don't have any tier 4 funding. Here's some healthy eating plans, and off you go.
Right, brilliant. Okay.
So I thought, right, well, I'm going to have to do something about it here, really.
Find your own way.
Find my own way. And then a family member was losing weight rapidly. As family members, you don't speak that often, do you? Sometimes.
I know what you mean.
And I sort of messaged her and I said, "You look incredible. What have you had done?" And
Okay.
she said, "I've had a gastric sleeve."
Okay, well, that's a really interesting. I want to talk about in a minute because that's a powerful moment that is. But go on.
Yeah, and I thought, well, obviously you think about weight loss surgery, but you never really know people that's had it done. You hear about all the horror stories, all that sort of stuff. And I was sort of inquiring with her about it from inside out, really. And I sort of made up my mind at that point, this is what I'm having.
Okay. That was the moment. That was the moment where we went. Okay.
That was the moment. That was the moment. Yeah.
Well, let's talk about it because there's quite a bit of touch on there if you don't mind. So my first question is: 15 years old, polycystic ovary syndrome. Okay, it's in my opinion, a very under spoken about condition in the human body and what kind of happens and what have you, and very misunderstood as well. And
Yeah.
was there? My question to you is like back then. I know it's obviously going back a bit of time, but like, was there an understanding that back then that this would be something that does impact weight, or was it more towards fertility, or was there yeah, that's kind of like what people sort of think it's solely towards. It does. There's not been this, and it might have been studied more since then, and maybe I'm being a little bit unfair to people back when you were 15 years old, but it's a very, very, very impactful condition on people's or ladies' weights because it literally lowers your metabolic rate, which is by the definition of making weight loss harder and weight gain easier. And depending on certain circumstances, it can make appetite go up as well. So metabolic rate going down, appetite going up. It's not a great combination, to be honest with you. Okay, and for people who are insulin resistant, it can be up to 40% it drops. So you think if someone's BMR is 1,500 calories, that's substantial. That's a big difference. And I think my question to you is, and I think you kind of answered it from sort of nodding there, but like pretty underwhelming what the kind of the expectations were and how to manage that, right?
Yeah, so I remember having it confirmed, and they never really mentioned anything about weight at the time. They just mentioned that I would probably have to have IVF because of the severity of it.
Ability, yeah, sure.
So I always focus on the fact that I might not be a mum and I might need to have IVF in the future. It was never sort of drilled in that, this could have an impact on your weight. It could have an impact on your mood. It could have an impact on all these different things. It was more drilled in about the baby side.
And I think, and ironically, that can cause stress, which people tend to turn to food as that short-term release. So there's that's another connection there, right? Like I said, I don't want to be if you don't mind me asking, what's your age now, Emily?
I'm 32.
But she's looking 17 years ago, right? So maybe the studies weren't there then. I'm not 100% certain on that. But to be honest with you, the reason I bring it up is because even now it's a bit underwhelming. To be fair, I find from this sort of stuff, and I think it's so under spoken about, and something that I'm really keen to sort of bring to the forefront because it's like I said, that's just that combination alone. Metabolic rate goes down, appetite goes up. That is literally that is the start point of weight gain, and without that understanding to it, and especially without an open mind of trial and error, because people don't have an open mind to trial and error when it comes to weight loss. It's either working or it's not working, isn't it? And that's imperative with PCOS because you can't really fine tune what the metabolic rate is until you kind of track a little bit.
Yeah, and I think can go into different like weight loss places, Slimming World, Weight Watchers, getting weighed every week. Why aren't you losing weight?
I mean, there's no mention of that.
Why is weight going up? When when you do on your period, like why are you £5 more heavier and why can't you lose it? And it's all these little bits no one explains to you really, do they?
With Slimming World, I'm always keen to sort of be the positive guy, right? And go, and you can see how some people have got a result, and fair enough, is that it offers a quantitative effect on food. But I think that weekly weigh-in, it's gone down this week. Woo, well done. It's gone up this week. What have you done?
Yeah.
That second part is, again, extremely misled in the sense of there's just other factors. The human body's far more complicated than that. And the truth be told is the only people who coach Slimming World are people who have done Slimming World. And I think that's can be problematic as well, right? Because obviously there's a narrow mind towards this thing works and that's it. And we know that weight loss can be a little bit more complicated than that. And I think, I just think PCOS is and of course, there's no understanding of things like that. They're not asking you what your metabolic conditions are they? Or anything like that. How many sins did you have? Did you stick to your points? And that's the game. Okay, cool. And obviously moving through, you mentioned sort of university there as well. And I think university, it's just obviously it's a massive change in your social environment, your conditions. You justify sort of making friends, don't you, and go out and do crazy things. Was that story?
Yeah, that was a story. Went out all the time, got drunk, ate loads of kebabs, had a great 3 years. That's basically it. But with that, obviously, you gain weight in the process. So you're starting at one weight and then 2-3 stone up, but then you can't lose that 2-3 stone, and then you just continue to gain, really.
And obviously you mentioned the emotional strain of sort of family bereavement there, which is emotional strain is something that can really, you mentioned earlier on, it's some people go alcohol, but there usually is something that people turn to kind of go, okay, I just need this, and to a certain extent I actually think it's justified, because I think whatever it takes to get over that as best you possibly can, it's just one of those awful things, and what is part of your story now, isn't it? It's part of your journey. I admire so much. And pregnancy, my wife gave birth 9 months ago, so I seen how wonderful and amazing women are, and I was just blown away by the whole entire thing. But again, the byproduct can be weight gain. Was if you don't mind me asking, was that something you experienced throughout that process, or weight gain? Obviously, having the baby. I'm talking about after giving birth. That can be.
So I put on 4 stone when I was pregnant. My little boy was £10.10 though. He were a big boy.
He done me. I'm £10 I'm very proud of my weight. When I was born. But
he were lad. he were a big lad. So I managed to lose a bit. I didn't lose it all. No. And it just crept up since then, really. He's 7 now, and I always used to say I haven't even lost my baby weight now. Like I have now.
Yeah.
But like for my operation, I used to say, I'm still carrying this baby weight around.
Also, sleepless nights. Sleep is again an underrated thing when it comes to why people put on weight. If there's not an appreciation of your sleep, we tend to be less active and more erratic in our choices when we're underslept. And of course, again, if you think about the parts of your journey there, going through the polycystic ovary syndrome, the university, the giving birth, these are factors that you can see how it happens. And I think when you're in the moment, and when I've experienced weight gain in my life, when you're in the moment, it's not always obvious that that's what's happening. But when you self-reflect and go, oh, that's what it, that's what it was. But I think when you do self-reflect, that's when you've got quite a powerful moment of, oh, okay, and then you can start to reverse engineer a little bit. And I suppose another thing I'm really really keen to speak about is this. Was it a family member you said about who told you that they had the gastric sleeve?
Yeah.
That's super powerful in the sense of I understand why lots of people don't tell people why they've had this journey done. I get it, and it's up to people. But can you imagine if that person didn't tell them you that what you had done there?
I know. I did have one of my doctors at work, he had it done.
Okay,
Uh,
okay.
but I wasn't sort of mentally there at that point. But when she told me that she'd had it done and I saw her and what she'd done, that was like the light bulb moment for me. I thought, this is it.
I think there's something about obviously family, obviously being the same gender as well. There's a bit more sort of no
Yeah.
trust and light there a little bit, potentially. Not. I suppose I'm generalising a bit, like usually. But yeah, and that's the thing I talk about quite a lot in the sense of it's not for me to say you got to tell people. I get it. But loved ones asking you how you've done that, and potentially you can maybe see that they're quite intrigued to not tell because you're not telling. Tough.
But then, in that sense as well, me telling people, two more people have had an operation now.
So
So,
there you
like,
go. There
my
you go. Yeah,
brother-in-law,
and
and
100%.
then some other person that I know will be getting the operation in January. So,
You don't know the knock-on effect. You don't know the knock-on
yeah,
effect. It could be
yeah,
mind blowing.
yeah,
And while we're doing this podcast right now to, I suppose, raise awareness as to how what can happen and how successful it can be, I suppose. Social media, all this sort of stuff that's out there. There's no better advert than word of mouth from a family or friend. It's just
yeah,
can't. You're seeing is believing, isn't it?
yeah.
And there's something in that which I think is quite important. And again, I applaud you being on this podcast and spreading the word and doing that because you don't have to. Okay, let's go through to. So you've made this decision. You've heard this news. How she went about it. What did you research heavily? Did you reach out to different companies? What did that look like?
I didn't reach out to any other companies.
Oh,
I
fair.
knew I
Okay.
was going to go with Tonic. She went with it, so
With
she
Tonic.
said that yeah.
Okay.
She said that she had a really, really good experience. I went with the same consultant
That's it.
at the
That's
same
how powerful it is,
hospital.
right? Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
at the same hospital. So I inquired. Obviously, I spoke to my husband about it. Initially, he was quite reluctant. Um,
Okay.
but again, I think that's just because people don't understand, they don't know.
Your
Um,
your immediate family love you for who you are anyway, right?
yeah,
So
yeah,
it's that, and I'm not saying that of course, that their opinion is super super valid for numerous reasons,
yeah,
but that's I think sometimes a strong relationship is the husband sort of saying, don't
yeah,
you don't need to do this, but you can understand where that comes from, a place of love.
yeah, yeah.
But
It is, and but I'm headstrong, so I were going with it regardless
you
what I
knew,
said. To be
you knew,
quite honest,
yeah,
I knew what I was going to do, and he sort of got his head around it. We researched it together,
awesome.
spoke openly about it with him, um, and then I obviously inquired with Tonic. I spoke to my consultant. I think this was in the November.
You were Mr. Alkafaf, yeah.
Yes, I was. And I just decided I'm going to do it. I booked it the day later. And I booked it for February the 29th, a leap year. So
Oh
I
wow.
thought I was quite lucky, actually.
Do you know what? I've got your notes here. And you just don't think it's a leap year. Of course it is, isn't it? Yeah, my
Yeah,
daughter was due on the leap year. She was born on the 23rd of February, yeah, but she was due on the leap year. And I was like, she can't, because you get all the thing, didn't you? Like every 4 years, they're only going to be 1 year.
yeah,
That's
yeah,
and but yeah, it's obviously an interesting date for many reasons. But yeah, so you were ready. I think this is important as well. You knew your surgeon, you knew what you wanted. I imagine your sort of background as a nurse probably helped you as well a little bit to kind of
yeah.
prepare. Was that right? Would you say?
Yeah, definitely. And I think when you have decided that you are going to have this operation, there's no change in your mind. And I've spoke to a lot of people about this. And once you are ready, you're ready. But you need to sort of accept that, the weight is the problem. Let's do something about it. And is this the right thing for you? Because it's life changing.
Yeah.
not only, in really, really good reasons, but also the way that you're going to eat food for the rest of your life, medication for the rest of your life, all these little bits. It does change your life, and you need to be sort of mentally ready for that.
Sure.
And our wholeheartedly in there.
And you seem like a strong-minded person, Emily, if you don't mind me saying as well. I can tell by
Yeah.
talking to you, the way you speak and everything. I think that helps.
Yeah.
Decisiveness. I think your background, obviously, your profession would have helped as well massively. The strong support network, which sounds like there's nothing wrong with someone maybe clashing and saying, "Oh, are you sure this is right?" But then getting on board and researching with you, I love that. I think that's really, really valuable. And I think I suppose it comes down to risk versus reward sometimes as well, doesn't it? And it's kind of what can happen. You mentioned the medication and all these sort of changes that come, but the reward is a healthier person that can thrive in different ways that maybe I can't even think of right now. And how the word I use in here quite a lot is exciting. And I always ask people who, and it's a theme on these podcasts, and it's interesting because these podcasts tend to have people. We have a high percentage of success rate, but these people come on here tend to be successful. They want to talk about it, right? And it's a theme of these podcasts that there's a moment they go, no, enough's enough, and I'm doing it. And I think that's a really good place to come from. And it seems to be a theme on these podcasts, which is quite common. And were you worried about identity change or anything like that? Was that something you were looking for at all? Because that's something that comes up quite a bit about people sort of worried that they're going to change too much.
No.
No?
No, that wasn't a worry to me. I was excited for the change. I was ready for it.
Yeah. There's a clue there as well, I think,
Yeah. The only thing, obviously, I think the apprehension of the surgery.
Yes.
That were a huge thing. I've got a little boy. I've got a husband. I've got a responsible job. I've got a home. Sort of preparing myself for that. But in terms of any apprehension afterwards, skin.
Okay. Yeah. Well, let's talk about that.
Yeah.
Because, that's something that is a thing. It's certainly, I think everyone agrees. I think the health benefits you get from fat loss is worth loose skin.
Definitely.
But it doesn't mean that you're kind of like, well, I wouldn't mind not having the loose skin. And it's, there's, in my opinion, with loose skin, there's two ways of looking at it. Okay. Well, actually, before I go down that road, may I ask how? Obviously, I know we've lost a trip. Please share with the group, the listeners, I should say, how much weight you've lost, and if you don't mind sharing what that sort of loose skin relationship looks like, that would be, I think, be appreciated.
Yeah. So today I weighed myself because it's my weigh day, and I've lost 9 stone 11 since my operation date. So yeah, loose skin wise, I think obviously me and you've spoken about, I do have Instagram and things, and that's really, really helped me, but it's also helped me mentally process what I could potentially look like after I've lost this significant amount of weight.
Yeah.
So I have looked at different people and thought, oh, well, they have lost the amount that I want to lose. Let's have a look. And everyone, shares their journeys, and it's absolutely fantastic. But I don't think you know what you are going to look like until you've lost weight, because people shrink differently.
Yep.
People are younger than others. People have sort of more skin around the tummies, for instance, than they do on the legs.
Sure.
So in terms of my loose skin, I've got loose skin everywhere. I've got loose skin on my arms, on the back of my arms. Obviously boobs, belly, legs, everywhere. Does it bother me? I think I'd be lying if I said that it didn't.
Fair enough.
The things that bother me the most are my boobs and my belly. Will I have surgery? Yes, probably.
Okay.
That's obviously down the line. I'm really, really open to that. In terms of getting my boobs done, I want them done sort of this time next year. I don't know about my tummy yet.
Okay.
But do I think it's bad? No. Do I think it could be worse? Absolutely.
Okay.
People do say, you haven't got it that bad, to be quite honest.
I think we are always our own worst enemies sometimes. That stuff, but we see things that aren't. We all. I mean, before surgery, before anything like that. I think we're all
Yeah.
kind of aware of that kind of certain aspects. You know, my wife will say things. I'm like, I can't even see what you're talking about,
Yeah.
you know? It is, yeah. But I think what I would say, and then what I was going to say sort of two things. Okay, when it comes to sort of loose skin, I think there's a psychology to it. So, for example, if we try and do the right things as best we possibly can to work against it, so whether that be sort of hitting optimal protein and things like that, that will really make people feel better about it because they've done what they can do. The other thing is, and I think this is the other psychological thing that's interesting, it depends what people define as what, because that's a very physical thing, isn't it? So, and it, it's people, we're keen to look attractive, aren't we? People are keen. That's something, human nature. We want to be like that. Usually, okay, I'm sure there are some people who don't care, but in general, we're looking to be. But I actually think confidence is the most attractive thing of them all. I think it's the sexiest
Yeah.
thing in the world, right? It's like if you see someone who's good at something and they're confident at doing it, it doesn't matter if it's playing. I'm not particularly an instrument guy, but I see someone who's good at playing a piano. I go, that is an attractive trait in that person, that they are doing something, they're good at it. And I think how people own their whether it be loose skin or whether it be me and I've always got to think I've got a big head, right? So if I try and own my big head, you know,
You haven't
like,
got a big head.
no, but that's what I'm saying, right? You know, I was called Big Head at school and Beavis and Butthead and things like that, right? At school. So kids are mean, as you said, right? So
Yeah, they're awful.
it's how you own it. It's how you own it and what you do anyway about it. And that's actually, I think, the most attractive thing of them all. And I think the more people leverage towards that, they feel less and less and less about these things, okay? Because you just said, people say to me, Beavis and Butthead and big head. You just said I haven't got a big head. Well, the evidence suggests that other people think I have, but I choose to ignore it. And
Yeah,
I
yeah, yeah,
basically do the same thing with loose skin, if that kind of makes sense.
yeah.
Yeah,
No, I agree, and I think as well, you know, looking at myself nearly 10 stone ago, and looking at myself now, where
yeah,
would I rather be? I'd rather be with my loose skin, to be quite honest, that I can tuck in my knickers and wear my size 14 pants. And
yeah,
that's what it's about. And it's sort of like, I think as well, which I've sort of discussed with other people who's had weight loss surgery, we are so critical of ourselves completely, more so when we were bigger. So we will look
yeah.
at things and we will point things out and say, well, that's disgusting, that's disgusting, that's disgusting. When realistically, you are 20 times better than what you were. And no one really cares about that little bit of pouch that you've got hidden in your pants.
Yeah, there's a word for it. It's called it's like the hedonic twist. So basically, when we get used to something, we just used to seeking other things. Okay, so
Yeah.
it's a bit like when you buy a nice car. About 3 months later, you start looking at other nice cars, don't you? It's that when we get used to something, and it's the same with weight loss. I think we get used to the weight loss, and that's why it's so important to build other metrics of success that I always talk about. But another thing I'm keen to talk about is it was what you said before the podcast. And you've touched on it a couple of times, which I think is really interesting, and I'm the same as you. Is utilizing social media almost to your advantage a little bit. So you mentioned that you're looking at other people who've lost the same amount of weight, so it's part of your research there. And you mentioned to me before about how you would sort of seek information from other people, put it out there yourself, and ask questions out there. And that's not always the tag social media gets. So I'll just be interested to ask you how you sort of did it, and how maybe other people might be able to use it as well. Because I think there are benefits to social media, and what that kind of looked like.
Yeah, I've only got positive things on my social media, to be quite honest. My social media is private,
Yep.
for obvious reasons. Work, I don't want people seeing me half naked on the internet.
Fair.
I only sort of accept people that are on their weight loss journey.
Yep.
But I started my social media when I booked in my operation. I wanted to know about the LRD process, what people were eating, what people were drinking, sort of the early stages after the operation. So I would add as many people as I could and sort of collate that information, really. And I would ask the questions. I would direct message people and I'd say, oh, you look great, can you just give me a bit of information? And everyone was so lovely. There was not one person that said, actually, I don't want to speak to you.
So that's so. I mean, the thing about social media is like you can search things and there'll be some random
Yeah.
information out there sometimes and stuff. But if you kind of look at a profile and kind of go, okay, I like the look of this person. And I think this person seems like they know what they're talking about, whatever. And
Yeah.
you get feedback. What you're doing is you're creating that community around you, right? And we
Yeah.
know that's super, super important, not just post procedure, but weight loss in general. I'd actually go as far as say not even just weight loss, human beings.
Yeah.
We're designed to be in communities. I think some people like to make out that they're a bit of a nomad, but in fact, actually, we crave people being around us. And also we crave, especially something like this, we crave information to make sure that we are not just making the right choices, but we're stocked with the facts to be able to adapt accordingly, because it is a big deal. And I think that's admirable from what you've done there. Because also think about that, because that's reaching out to people. That can be awkward sometimes. So that's to me, there's a layer of confidence to go, look, I'm serious about this, and I want to find out, can you help me? And it's marvelous to hear that the feedback was good from yourself.
Yeah,
Like
really, really good.
Together.
Really, really good. Everyone were so lovely and supportive, and you get people messaging you now who you messaged right at the beginning, who's also followed your journey as well.
Yeah.
Which is really, really nice. And what I've done on my social media, which I loved about other people's, what's helped me, I've done the same. So I've done all of my food through LRD.
Yeah.
I've put everything that I've ate for 28 days for LRD. I've done,
Yes.
through soft, through liquid, through all these little bits. And I've tried to, if someone was following me who wanted to have a gastric sleeve, it would talk them step by step about what's gone on.
And that's probably
what I like.
That's probably a little bit linked to your experience when you found out about the gastric sleeve and the feedback you got, and it's gone well, and you're grateful for that. But also, it's a word I can never say. I'm going to make a fool of myself here. The art of reciprocity. Is that the right word?
I don't know what that means.
I'm pretty certain I'm not saying it right, to be honest. It's a word that I can't pronounce, but it's like basically where you're nice to someone, people just tend to be nice to your back. That's like, and it's a real simple art. And that could be done on social media. I tried to do it on social media. I have my Bariatric PT page, and I had someone comment. It wasn't hate, but it was someone commented, sort of saying like, I only listen to such and such because they tend to be more qualified than PTs. And I just wrote back, sort of saying, really delighted you have someone to work with. You're right. That person is more qualified than a PT, but I've helped thousands of people. I like to think I'm in a good position to help more people. And every industry is you got good and bad, and I like to think I'm one of the good guys. And they deleted the comment I saw today. So what I'm saying is, you can actually, if someone, the horrible thing about social media is there are some bad comments out there, but you can, if you kill with kindness, you just tend to find that you just absorb nice people all the time, because the bad guys go away after a little while because they're not bothering you. And I think, again, I suppose the reason I'm intrigued by what you're sort of saying there is, it sounds like you've really channeled social media to your advantage by just being a nice person on there. And I think that gets a bit sort of under the radar sometimes. People just assume people are horrible because there's that kind of idea about it, isn't there?
Well, yeah. It's like with anything, isn't there? There's just nasty people about, and people want to bring people down. But I personally think it's about filtering your audience and not making it accessible to all these people that want to say negative things. And I'm all for people sharing the journey, and being public, and fair play to them. I couldn't do it.
Well, yeah, you've set yourself up for the win there, haven't you? By making it private and channeling who comes in, you're in control.
I haven't had the negative comments. I've not had people say bad things. Everyone said really, really nice things, and I've got my friends on there who are a huge support system. My work friends, my normal friends, my family are on there. But it's who I want to see that.
Yeah, it's a good tip. It's a good tip.
Yeah.
Because it's make it private, but in who you want to, and then obviously you're in complete control of who you follow. It's a good tip, because I think there are benefits to social media, but people kind of worry about the other stuff and can sometimes experience the other stuff. But you've set yourself up for the win there, in the sense of you're very much in control of who comes in, you're very much in control of who you're looking at, and that's a powerful combination, right? Talk to me about post-procedure, if you don't mind. So the first sort of 6 weeks or so, obviously it seems like it's gone really, really well over since February, but what's the, those early days, was there bumps?
It were easier than what I thought it were going to be.
Okay, that does happen quite a lot, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was easier than what what I thought it was going to be, a lot easier. I went back to work after 4 days. I was working from home.
Ooh, right,
Um,
dude.
and then and then I went back, and then I went back properly the week after to work, obviously when you can drive and stuff. But yeah, I think the main issue I had post-op was the lack of nutrients,
Sure.
for
Yeah.
one. Working, I had a lot of brain fog.
Yeah.
I couldn't think properly. I remember sat there writing an email at work, right, thinking I'm replying to people, and it didn't make sense. And I thought, how many emails have I actually sent that don't make
Oh, I
sense?
see. Right, you didn't print
Um,
it. I see. Yeah.
so yeah, so that was sort of for the first 2-3 week. But obviously, once you start getting used to things, and your tummy gets a little bit better, it's been plain sailing, really.
You make a good point about the nutrient sort of side of things, because it's not an eat as little as possible for as long as possible diet, okay, and try and get the weight loss as quickly as possible. That's not it. The goal is actually, people sort of say to me sometimes, "Oh, I'm worried I'm eating more." You're absolutely supposed to eat more than you are the first sort of few weeks or so, because you need to get these nutrients in. And I think that understanding is really important, because people are so associated with the low calorie diet and the fattier type diet of just eat little and lose weight. And there is an element of that in the early stages, but we've got to eat more. You want your body to eat more. I speak to some patients who are eating 1,200 calories, 7, 8, 9 weeks post-op. I'm like, great. That sounds like a good place to be to me. I'd much rather be having that than only be able to eat 300 calories for sure.
Mm,
And that gets underestimated quite a lot. The goal is to be energized and fueling ourselves to live an active lifestyle while losing weight. It just so
yeah.
happens those early stages are more aggressive, the weight loss, because you can't eat very much, but it can't remain like that. And I think the more people get behind that message rather than thinking about constant restriction, there's old habits there from previous diets and what have you. But bear in mind the polycystic ovary syndrome as well. Your weight loss has been tremendous in the time frame. It doesn't seem
Yeah, don't
you
ask me
seem to
how. I don't really know.
blown through that a little bit,
Yeah,
right? Because it does
yeah,
slow down weight loss, no doubt about it. And I say that to patients. That's why another reason why people shouldn't compare. Metabolic conditions is a factor. But you've kind of absolutely blown through it, which is, I mean, that momentum, when you've seen that happen over the course of time, what you're feeling, what you're thinking during that, because you're changing things at a rapid rate there.
yeah. Every week, I always think it's going to stop now.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to stop. There's only so much that I can do. I'm getting close to goal now. It's going to stop. But the losses still keep coming. I don't do anything specific to bring them along. I just eat, my usual stuff. But yeah, it blows my mind every week. It's like this week, for instance, obviously we've gone to the ball, I've been drinking, I went home, I thought, oh, I'm gonna have to have something to eat. I had a garlic bread pizza, sat scoffing that in bed. I thought, well, I mean, I only had like one, but
Yeah, yeah,
it is what it is.
yeah, yeah.
But eating different things, drinking different things. I thought, you know what, I won't lose this week, and that's fine. That's fine. If I've enjoyed myself, that's fine. 2.2 pound off this week. So you
Wow.
can
Okay.
still enjoy yourself and eat the right things and be mindful what you're eating, and still lose weight, which I find is incredible. I went on holiday, I think it was 12 weeks post-op, and I ended up losing half a stone on holiday, on an all-inclusive holiday.
Blimey, that's good. That's good to go. I've never
I
done
mean,
that.
it was. I know it was 12-week post-op, but that was me being mindful what I ate and what I drank, and not being silly and not overindulging. As before, you would have seen me go for rounds and rounds of
Everything, yeah.
food, and I would have been like Pac-Man. Same with the drinks, but it's sort of changed my mindset now in a very, very good way, to be honest.
I think, like, yeah, it's one of those things, because there'll be some patients listening, and who are maybe 6, 7 months, and this happens, by the way. And I'm going to ask you a question about what's next in a moment, if that's okay. But 6, and they might stay the same weight for a month, okay. And I think the word you're using quite a lot of are mindful, and I think what that probably means is that you've actually got good practice in place around it. You sort of said a minute ago, I've done this and I seem to lose weight. I think you're probably putting in good practice subtly without realizing. well, not maybe, well, maybe you are realizing, but the combination of the two. But also, what happens is when people have so much momentum, they're actually extremely protective of that momentum, okay? And they subtly will make choices based on that momentum. Whereas sometimes what happens is if someone stays the same weight for a month, that momentum's not there anymore. They can go off piste even more because of the fact that it doesn't feel like it's not working anymore. But when you've had the sort of momentum behind you that you've had, it's almost like that sort of snowball effect a little bit. What I would say as well is like health benefits, because we spoke about sort of the loose skin and maybe that sort of dynamic. But when someone loses nearly 10 stone, I mean, and for someone in your field as well, have you been measuring that at all? Like, I don't know, like heart rate or certain aspects around other aspects that you're looking at?
Yeah, heart rate's gone down, resting heart rate's gone down, walking heart rate's gone down. Physically, I can get around more. I suffered with a really, really bad back pre-op. It was to do with, obviously, my weight, but also because I had nerve damage in my spine from when I had my little boy. I had a cesarean, and obviously you have to have the spinal block,
Sure.
and I had nerve damage. But I'd been to physios, they couldn't fix it, and I was in constant pain, to be quite honest. My legs were in agony, my knees really, really bad. And I used to get home from work, and my legs used to be swollen. I couldn't even get my pants off. Obviously that don't happen now. And that to me means more to me than the actual weight loss in itself, losing the 10 stone, not being in constant agony. And also the confidence that comes with it as well
Well, and
is a huge thing.
well, that segues quite nicely to my next point, because you mentioned before we came on to the pod about we spoke about the ball and stuff, and I think you mentioned that you were going to come down for a friend. The friend couldn't come, and then you kind of came and met new people by yourself. That's an incredible test of confidence. You can't jump on scales and measure confidence, can you? It's not a number by it, but that's a pretty good sign that you are willing to put yourself into different. And it was a 2.5 hour drive. You could have quite easily just not bothered. And what was there a certain element, maybe because it's that social media community that you've kind of built and what have you? Was there a sort of layer of I want to go and do this in a physical capacity, no matter what, or I want to challenge confidence further? What's the sort of thinking behind that?
Yeah, I wanted to come because I'd seen people that had gone before last year, and I think testing yourself like that, going out of your comfort zone, is a really, really good thing. I've lost all this weight, I'm traveling down, and also it's for people like me.
Yeah.
Everybody is in the same boat. Everyone's, had weight loss surgery. Everyone there has got loose skin. Everybody there's different types of journey. We're all not going to eat that much. Let's put it bluntly.
Yeah.
So it wasn't like I would go into, for instance, a work conference or something different. I would go in with people like me.
Yeah, love that.
And meeting different people is a great thing, isn't it? And I'm all for sharing journeys, and I'm all for sharing my journey, and people want to share theirs as well.
Yeah, I totally agree. I totally agree. And it's like, again, there's different levels to why people, maybe can't go through anxiety, and I totally understand. But you don't need to be this out there person who's just going to be screaming and shouting all the time. But you can speak to 2 or 3 individuals, and that can go a hell of a long way. That conversation you had with your family member probably changed your life. Now you might have met someone else eventually, who knows, right? But that focus, that sort of trust and that belief, and then you're talking to someone else who maybe has had a stall for a month at month 7, and you're a bit further down, and you didn't have that nugget of advice to push them through that. You just don't know the compound effect over time.
Yeah, because people's journeys and people's bodies are completely different.
Of course.
And it does knock people's confidence, various things, stalls, etc. But I think it's important that your journey is your journey, and you are an individual, and we're all not the same. And if you stall for a couple of months, that's okay, because that's you. If you don't stall for a couple of months, that's okay too. But keep on with the momentum. Don't think, oh well, I'm just going to tuck into them bag of Haribos because I've done with it now. You know, when we speak about it, I remember speaking to Dr. Alkafaf, and he says, you know, we could be going down this road and still losing at 18-month post-op.
Yeah.
You know, it isn't just, you know, we're doing this for 2 months and then that's it, game over.
You do get patients sometimes who are like very, very early into it. And I would say early still the first 6 months. Um, and like I said, there's meant to be trial and error. There's meant to be this kind of effect of like resilience and maybe it's not gone quite the way you wanted to this week or the 2 weeks, but then what do we do anyway? And I think that you touched on it earlier on, but those habits that you're left over are so important. I can speak to you all day long, but I said to you it would be 30, 40 minutes. We're on 45.
Right, all right.
But that's cool. I always ask everyone, Emily, at the very, very end, if you had to give like a tip or a couple of tips towards someone in the early stages, or maybe even someone thinking about it, take your pick who you want to sort of aim it towards. What would be your sort of number one message?
One, think about it and do it. If you've got your head in the game and you're thinking, well, what if this operation has changed my life for the better, just go do it.
Love it. Love it.
And people that are post-op and struggling, carry on with it. The benefits will always outweigh the negatives. And, you know, this time next year, think about that. Don't think about what's coming up. Think about this time next year. That's what I thought about.
I think that's a really interesting point you just made there about looking at the calendar year a little bit. Okay, I think when someone goes down this road, you can't be looking at weeks of data here. We need to be looking at the calendar year. Okay, and what does that look like? I spoke to a patient recently who this was back in sort of June, July time, and I said, look, okay, you want to lose another £26, and you're really upset that you've only lost £1 a week the last sort of 3 weeks. If you hit your goal weight at the end of the year, how would you feel? I feel fantastic. Well, if you lose £1 every single week, the next 26 weeks, you'll be hitting your goal weight. So you're actually complaining about these £3. That is the trajectory for you to get to what you just said is actually you'd be really, really happy. You're on route. Okay. Now it might be £1 a week, but your dates aren't matching what you're doing because if you're happy at the end of the year, the trajectory that you're doing is right. And I think that gets lost sometimes because we're so about what was the last way we did, we did. And I think calendar years can be really powerful. And by the way, like you're going to go on holiday. I mean, you lost £6 on all inclusive. I don't know how on earth you did that, but it's like okay, push and pull effect a little bit. I'm going away for 2 weeks. Maybe I'll pull back a bit. Maybe I'll accept a pound or two gain there. But I tell you what, between mid-August and mid-October, I've got nothing on there. I can really put the foot down a little bit. Then we're going into that, and we've got Christmas. And I think the more you navigate it like that as a calendar year, rather than this week-to-week thing, it just seems to be a more efficient way of doing it. And I mean, you're under a calendar year. And actually, I have one more question. Actually, what's next? I mean, this massive, amazing sort of weight loss. Have you got plans at all of using it further to your advantage?
My goal was to get to the loss of 10 stone. That was always my goal. Hopefully I'll reach that within the next couple of months.
I bet you're there or thereabouts, aren't you?
Well, yeah. So that's 10 stone in 10 months.
So I like that idea there that you're more than happy. And then, by the way, I don't want to speed it up for you, but it's quite refreshing to hear you say a few pounds in a couple of months. That's a good mindset, I think.
Yeah. I wanted 10 stone by February the 20th. Well, it has to be 28th, but since it was a leap year.
Oh, but, yeah, you can't do it.
But yeah,
wait 4 years.
Yeah, but then after that, I'll probably do another stone.
Okay.
Yeah, so I've already readjusted it, but once I get to 10 stone, I will be happy. That is just, it's just unreal, mind blowing. And I never ever thought I would ever get to this. When I set myself 10 stone, I thought, nah, this ain't going to work for me.
Well, I would say you are, yeah. I mean, like I said, I think there's been really good practice laid down. You mentioned the word mindful, and I think there's probably it's an important word to do. But I think there's mindful. It sounds like there's efficiency in there, but also determination, right? And that's probably come from your story. Your story is marvelous. It's when I say marvelous, I mean it's just this. I mentioned earlier on the PCOS, that the going to university, that social dynamic that can cause problems. The bullying, obviously bereavements and just what a story. And I think you should be extremely proud of yourself, because there's not many people on planet Earth who have lost the weight you lose in under a calendar year. And by the way, miles under a calendar year as well, by the way. Like, you're not even close.
So maybe I might get to 11 before my calendar year. Let's see.
So
Let's see.
I think just, explore, do new. I know you mentioned sort of talking about more exercise, which would be a pleasure. And just thank you so much for your time. I think there's so many nuggets there, and just I'm delighted it's gone so well for you, Emily.
Thank you very much, and thanks for having me.
Pleasure. Well, listen, guys, thank you so much. Oh, before I go, where can people find you on socials?
I am Em's sleeve _24.
Is that on Insta, TikTok?
That's on Insta.
Insta.
No, just on Insta. And I'm private, so I'll have to accept you.
Oh, okay. You might get to sieve them through. Yeah. Well, listen, thank you so much. And another wonderful, wonderful podcast there. The stories just different every single time. And it's so wonderful here. It's such a pleasure to be part of Tonic. And if you do want to come on, as I always say, harry@tonicsurgery.co.uk. Any questions we can fire away on here. I do want questions, actually, because it'd be quite cool to have a guest on here and we answer questions together. But I get people say they want to come on, but not many questions. So if you do have questions, please fire away. You might want to kind of like not be on it, but just got a few questions that you want me to also talk about. That'd be great as well. But thank you so much. Have a wonderful, wonderful evening. And I will look forward to catching up with you all very, very soon. Bye-bye.
Bye.